Thank you for that kind introduction, Amir. To the participants of this very important rally today in Washington, D.C., to President-elect of the National Council of Resistance, Mrs. Maryam Rajavi, and to the many thousands more who are listening in Iran and around the world, including and most especially the female-led resistance units. I want to begin today by telling you how sorry I am that I can't be with you in person. I'm not with you in person, but I am very much with you in spirit, in action and in voice. And I so admire your dedication, your devotion, and your commitment to the cause of a secular, democratic, and non-nuclear Republic of Iran. This is a huge inspiration to me and to countless others in the United States and other nations around the world. Now, if I may speak for a moment from the heart and as a woman, your tireless pursuit of truth, transparency, and justice is something that every fighter, every leader, every mother, daughter, and sister should and must support in the future. Now, I was privileged to speak with many of you back in July during the Free World Summit, which of course came on the heels of that sham election in Iran and your powerful boycott and protest of that vote. Believe me, your message was heard around the world. I can tell you absolutely that corrupt regime in Iran heard your message, and they continue to view you as a big threat, and they will do everything possible to silence your voice. I say, don't let them do it. For your voice is loud, clear, compassionate, truthful, and just. So let them continue to hear you. We are fed up with the economic incompetence and broken promises. We reject your systemic corruption. We demand accountability for your actions. And we will not tolerate your disrespect for human rights and the misogynistic treatment of women. I say let them hear you, let them continue to hear you, and let the rest of the world hear you loud and clear as well. Now, if I may, permit me to reflect for just a moment on that last point I made. For you see, I know what it means to be a woman up against difficult odds and powerful and strong men. After all, I served as the second woman in U.S. history to lead a branch of the heavily male-dominated U.S. military. And earlier in my career, I certainly knew what it was to be a young woman facing some of the same difficult dynamics that the young women of the resistance face today. So I want to speak to all of you now, specifically, the women and especially the young women of the resistance. Take heart, I tell you, for your voices and your actions have already accomplished a great deal. Your goals are difficult, but they are achievable. And although, without question, there will be a price to pay, and change is going to take more time, you have the power to do this. And how sweet the day will be when your voices and this resistance movement, which is led by a woman and comprised of 50% women, how sweet the day will be ultimately when you bring down the very regime that treats you as second-class citizens. My friends, Abraham Raizee has the blood of many on his hands. You know it, we know it, and the whole world knows it. As head of Iran's judiciary, and earlier in his career as a member of the 1988 Death Commission, he was then and he still is directly responsible for overseeing unspeakable actions, including the forced disappearance and execution of as many as 30,000 political prisoners, mostly members of the MEK, and the targeting of Iranian dissidents abroad. Think of it, 30,000 lives cut short because of this man. Regrettably, he escaped accountability and has continued to escape accountability for these brutal actions. Indeed, I think his ruthless nature is a primary reason why the Ayatollahs have promoted him up through the ranks over these years. Now he is president of the Iranian regime, and will soon address the UN General Assembly. It is a sad, sad day when your chief qualification to lead a nation is your willingness to crack down hard and oppress the very same people that you are sworn to protect and serve. Most recently, Amnesty International issued a powerful statement, and I quote, that Abraham Raizee has risen to the presidency instead of being investigated for the crimes against humanity of murder, forced disappearance, and torture is a grim reminder that impunity reigns supreme in Iran. The circumstances surrounding the fate of the victims and the whereabouts of their bodies are to this day systematically concealed by the Iranian authorities, unquote. I wholeheartedly agree with Amnesty International's assessment, and the world community finally needs to take action. Here again, your voice and your demand for accountability must be heard. So I join with you today in calling upon the UN General Assembly to refer the matter of the 1988 massacre and other Raizee crimes to the UN Security Council, and for the UN Security Council to conduct an official investigation into this heinous genocide and crimes against humanity. And I certainly hope that the United States will play a leading role in this charge. I also hope that interviews with survivors in Ashraf 3, Albania will be part of the official record. For who better to bear witness to all that happened 33 years ago, including the murder of pregnant women and teenage girls, than the very people who were there, who suffered, and who somehow persevered and survived. My friends, I know the current state of affairs sounds bleak, but in bleakness, there is always opportunity. The challenge certainly remains difficult, but your unity, your sacrifice, and your persistence will surely deliver results, and I am certain that the United States wants to help. Specifically, there remains overwhelming bipartisan support in the U.S. House of Representatives for Res. 118, a resolution expressing support for the Iranian people's desire for a democratic, secular, and non-nuclear Republic of Iran. Res. 118 also condemns Tehran's support for state-sponsored terrorism and violations of human rights. Mrs. Rajavi deserves enormous credit here, for her 10-point plan was the model used to craft this resolution. So I want to thank her especially for educating many in the United States and around the world about who Abraham Raizee really is and what's really happening in today's Iran. It is extremely, I underscore, extremely important that you keep bringing to the attention of the American people and to the world the conditions the people of Iran face and the need to finally hold Raizee accountable. I continue to call on our Congress, including the US Senate, to finalize Res. 118 as soon as possible. And in addition, I hope the Congress and other nations will support the Biden administration's efforts to seek a so-called longer and stronger agreement as a follow-on to the re-entry into the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, and that any lifting of sanctions would occur only after Tehran agrees and demonstrates that it has altered its behavior on terrorism, human rights, and regional destabilizations. As the former Secretary of the United States Air Force, I can tell you without question that Iran's support for terror in Yemen, Lebanon, Gaza, and against US forces in Iraq, Syria, and elsewhere has caused bloodshed, destruction, and massive refugee issues. These actions, once and for all, simply must come to an end. My friends, my time is running short with you today, so I want to now return to a point that I made earlier, and that is the very big importance of your voice. Your voice is loud, clear, compassionate. Your voice is truthful and just. Don't let them silence you, not ever. Let them continue to hear you. Don't let the world think that the regime is strong, for they grow more desperate and more vulnerable with each passing day. Don't let the regime tell the world, We are the only government within Iran. We are the only alternative, for this is a lie. You are the alternative. You represent the future of Iran. You are committed to equality for all nationalities and genders. You believe in the peaceful coexistence of peoples and respect for the United Nations Charter. You are the fighters, the challengers, the resistors, and most importantly, you are the mothers and the daughters and the fathers and the brothers that will one day deliver the right of self-determination and freedom to the people of Iran. Thank you again for your participation in this important rally, for your commitment to a free Iran. Keep the spirit, keep your voice loud and clear. Thank you.